Consortia, I know it's kind of a mysterious area. I used to spend incredible amounts of time writing proposals. And I think in the long run, if you can establish these good relationships with companies, they'll carry you. In other words, they'll believe in you and you'll have multiple years of funding. Whereas with NSF, at best, your grant could maybe last 3 years. So there was more of a longevity involved with consortia. And one reason I like that is because I can have more students. We had quite a bit of cash flow. It allowed us to pay for more people. Whereas with a typical NSF grant, you're fortunate to have maybe one student. With industry, everything's got to be fast, everything's on a deadline. We have a bit more time because our projects are set up around students. So we either have our 2-year master's student or we have our 3 to 3.5 year PhD students. So we have quite a bit of time to really dig into these areas and add a lot of detail. I put a lot of effort into recruiting and trying to get people who have that curiosity. Most of them want to go to the oil industry. And then I try to sort of foster that curiosity. I try to link them with a project which sort of fits their personalities. What I look for are team players. And I know that's what industry wants. I try to be fair. I try to be open. But I'm also one who doesn't reserve criticism. In other words, if somebody's, I feel like is not gotten a little bit off the tracks, I'll tell them. I think the hardest thing to be a teacher is to be a patient. That long ago, I was a student and I appreciated advisors who were patient. So,
can you talk a little bit more about the finance that you need?
Well, it's like a magazine subscription. We have maybe 10 companies and they're each paying a certain amount each year. Most of the money goes to salary, right? Paying myself, paying the students. In the pre-COVID world, a lot went to travel because we would attend a lot of meetings. That's gone away. Other things we pay, sometimes consultants, people that work with our group. Some of it goes now, we have a partnership with a company in Brazil that's helped us design our website. But again, we try to preserve continuity. So when we accept a PhD, our goal is that person won't have to pay anything. In other words, they have an RA. They don't have to be a teaching assistant, which takes time and energy. So they can devote themselves 100% to the research rather than maybe working part-time or something like that.
Have you ever thought about moving for real into industry?
Not really. I'm pretty senior now in my career, but I've always appreciated oil company data. I also like being an academic. I like going to kind of academic meetings. I like to kind of have my foot both in academia and industry because there are not a lot of people who bridge that gap. So I feel like I'm in a good sort of eco niche.
Is there sometimes a stigma for working so close with industry?
Well, probably. I'm sure some people might object to that, but I've never had an encounter with someone I've never had someone openly tell me that. But my view is, the Earth's a pretty complicated thing, and if you're going to try to figure it all out using surface data, good luck to you. I love good data, and that's why I have this consortium. If you have good data, you're probably going to be a pretty good scientist just because you've got a big advantage over all those people who don't have the data. Data providers give us data at no cost. And for data providers, we're sort of like a free advertising. We put their data out at meetings, we put it in publications with their permission. So it's a way for them to kind of get their data out there, interpreted, right? So it adds value to the data.
When you talk with the representatives of these many companies, what kind of person do you look for?
We just keep on the lookout for the people at companies that tend to be the sort of quote unquote academic person at that company because they thoroughly understand what we're up to.
Why do you publish?
People appreciate publication as a benchmark. In other words, if you have gone through all the trouble to publish, you're at a pretty high level, in the whole system. And I think for these students entering the companies, it puts them in a good place.
What is next?
Kind of doing the same thing in different areas. And that may seem a little bit repetitious, but it also, there's important differences that happen as you jump around. And it's good, it's interesting to see those differences and to understand those differences. But I guess we're not trying to do anything drastically different, but instead we're just moving from one geographic margin to the next.
Paul, what are you proud of?
Well, over the years, I've probably worked with, I don't know how many students, probably 60 or 70. And I'm very proud of all the work that's been done, going way back to the 80s at University of Texas. I feel like the sum is greater than the parts. This is work I could have never done on my own.
Somebody has to kick off a consortium. What would you say to these people?
The best thing to do is sort of go on a fact-finding mission. Visit whoever it is they want the consortium to be paid for, whatever company. And it could be more than one company. Obviously, you might need several companies. But to go to those companies and say, this is our idea, what do you think? And sometimes they will tell you, nope, forget it, we're not interested. Other times they say, this is a great idea, but why don't you also think about doing this? So I guess it's sort of an open-mindedness and listening phase before you launch into, here's our proposal, take it or leave it.